Over the last 10 years, Euston residents are experiencing an intense upheaval of their environment. In April 2023, the UK government announced a 2-year pause in the high-speed railway works, creating empty spaces that might accommodate meanwhile use. Midway through the pause, we look at what is happening so far with these meanwhile spaces and how the local community has experienced accessing them.
The development work around the area has affected lots of our community. We've had people who were displaced or moved out of the area. Some of them chose to leave, some of them maybe didn't feel like it was as much of a choice that they wanted to leave. So we've had buildings demolished, we've had impacts from some of the development that are more negative, have been everything from things like people's journeys home having to quite significantly change, whether that's walking, cycling, driving, and it changes again and again as well, and it'll continue to change. So you get used to one journey where you might feel a bit safer, and then suddenly you have to switch up again, or new hoardings go up and now you have to be able to navigate around said hoardings, and that has impacted community safety. The building work in general, especially during the pandemic, was significant in noise level and its impact on people, and especially that people were locked in their homes. That was a real struggle and one of the kind of main well-being impact. Residents here are consulted a lot, and so there is a lot of consultation fatigue in the area. I mean, even I feel it, and that's because I am often asked to reach out to my residents or to my young people that I'm working with to be able to talk about what's happening. But sometimes they're done. They're just like, why can't they just read what we've already said somewhere? Which I totally hear. But equally, although there is consultation fatigue, what we would love to ask of the orgs is get together a little bit, get a bit strategic about it, and work out what needs to be asked so it only gets asked once.
So when the Meanwhile Use programme was first conceived, there was a big focus on engagement and involving the community. That led to us developing the community engagement strategy. As part of the engagement strategy, we reached out to lots of local stakeholders and residents to invite them along to look at the spaces and see what they could use it for. That then enabled us to develop an expression of interest process. So then following up on that, people were able to submit applications for all the different sites that they may have been interested in, to look at how those sites could be enabled in the manner in which they wanted it to. So it took into account all the different kinds of needs of the community. Some examples of how that's proceeding forward now is the work that Old Arm Arts Centre are doing. They expressed an interest in use of the annex. They then went through a process whereby we asked other groups to see whether they'd be interested in it. So people applied to use that space in the annex, and then at the end of it, Old Arm Arts Centre won that commission. However, what we tried to do is also get other people involved in it, so it's not just a project that ODAC are leading on, but it's spread across other partners. So Camden's Pupils Theatre are involved in it, Hopscotch Women's Centre involved in it. So we've encouraged people to collaborate and use that space in a much more equitable way to support different groups that may be supported as part of that. Old Durham Arts Centre, ODAC for short, will manage that space, deliver lots of community programs, looking at art programs. A Messy Art Studio is something that they want to aspire to. There's something called a tool garden where local people can come along and hire tools to learn how to use certain tools, learn DIY skills, working in partnership with the skills centre that's next door to it. And there's also the work that's taking place on what's called the Zigzag site. That work is currently being undertaken to enable us to have growing beds in there, whereby another local community provider, Hopscotch Women's Centre, will undertake a programme and a project that looks at befriending mental health using food and food growing as a way to do that. And both ODAC's project and Hopscotch's project have been funded through the Meanwhile Use Fund to enable us to deliver the programme and support people as part of that.
I definitely, since doing the projects that I've been doing the last 4 years, I've seen both the development teams and Camden Council all really consider who is taking part, how are they able to take part, why might they be motivated to take part, and start to really listen to the residents about what those things are that they want or need. So I do feel like the work has become more equitable. Is it perfect yet? No. Will it ever be? Probably not, because that's kind of what we also need. We always need to question who's in the room, who's not in the room, and what are we doing about it. But I do feel like they've started to do that.
A key part of our community approach has been about how we involve the community in the decision making and the design of any of the meanwhile uses spaces. It's been quite challenging to kind of do that in the way that we might have wanted to, but the emerging opportunity that's arising out of the NTH site now, where the porter cabins will be removed shortly, has enabled us to find a way in which we're able to co-produce the use of that space and extend it further. And we're doing that by involving the community groups in the local areas, principally Fitzroy Youth in Action, and their reach into the community to get local people, especially young people, to consider how they can design that space but also build it. That's a really good example of co-production, where not only are we consulting with the people, but we're actually engaging them in the process, and they are actually then design the space and then will be actively involved in building what goes on in there for the benefit of the community.
So I'm getting to work with an amazing group of young people called the Young Placemakers. They are currently co-designing with us and with a company called Matt and Fiona a built object of some sort next to that park, and also working with the landscape design team to inform a little bit more of what do they want from an open space that could, although it could and should be able to be used by anyone, might actually feel like a home because it's been designed by young people for young people, by people from their own community for their own community.